Some people think of Austin as kind of a living ghost town. In a way, yes, it is. There's about 300 residents. There was 10,000 at one time. This was mainly a silver town, silver mining town. And eventually they gold mined it. There's some turquoise mines. There's a lot of minerals up in these hills. But you have to understand, it's named after the capital of Texas. Nobody really knows how it had gotten its name. It is named after that. There are multiple urban legends about it. And the silver rush had triggered a Pony Express horse who kicked over a rock, and basically the rock had a lot of high content silver. And like any mining rush, word got out and everybody started to arrive and build up Austin in this valley that you see. And by the summer of 1863, and around the Reese River, which runs a few miles up the road, they had developed the Reese River Mining District. It also became the county seat for Lander County in 1864. The Rural Colt Gridley's Impromptu Fundraising Drive, which I read to you earlier. And in 1880, the mines were becoming exhausted in Austin until new mining was brought to the area in 1970s, 80s, and even as far as into the 90s for gold. The Nevada Central Railroad was built in 1880, which could connect Austin to the Transcontinental Railroad at Battle Mountain. Line came too late, and the silver boom in production really ended in 1887. These silver veins were drained like most towns, and the town went bust. People started moving out. The reason why I decided to do the video is because I'm standing on top of the town. You have to understand a little bit of an inside story. In 1862, when the horse kicked the rock, W.H. Talbot discovered the silver. Sometimes it's good to pick up quartz. It might have gold or silver in it, right? You never know. And when he sent the piece of Virginia City to be analyzed, he had staked a claim, and the rest was all history. A lumber mill was built here. They had flour mills, at least one flour mill, a couple 10 stamp mills. A lot of the houses at first were built out of adobe and brick, saved from fires, floods, harsh winters. Believe it or not, 3 floods almost nearly destroyed the town, and it still survived. There was floods in 1868, 1874. Beyond this high desert is the Toiyabe National Forest. It does get heavily forested once I go over the hill. And the Silver Mining Company, also known as a Manhattan Mill and Mine, was built just over the hill. Brought in millions in silver. Millions. Probably 50 million in ore production. There's only 4 towns on the 280-mile stretch of Pony Express and Overland Route territory. The 280 miles, there's only 4 towns. So there's really no gas between each town. So you must fill up if you guys are going to plan on coming out here. Here's a few theories of how the town got its name. It started off in Pony Canyon of Clifton, which we will visit. There's only the mill and a wall, but it's still considered a ghost town, which eventually became abandoned, and a couple miles up the road they built Austin. This started off as a camp in Lander County. Actually, oh, there you are. Peace, peace, peace. He's coming around the corner and scared me. But the population here made up 1/3 of Lander County, and that constituted a majority of population, which held the county seat for a while. And eventually the territory's legislature moved the county seat from Jacobsville to the Austin. Main Street sold for an average of $8,000 in gold. The first newspaper arrived, called the Reese River Review, named after the mighty Reese River in 1863. Kind of printed newspapers similar to Mark Twain's writings. International Hotel I showed you. It was built in 1860. And then 180 miles later, it ended up being reconstructed here. In 1864, Austin incorporated And the town had grown to 6,000. Austin Clifton became embroiled in intense competition for supremacy. Obviously, Austin won, and when Austin won the contest, people began moving here because it had political power. Hey, think about it. 3 of the oldest churches in Nevada, the oldest bank. It's a lot of historic sites. It's mixed with desert and forest. Sun's up, still early morning. Clifton was abandoned. Mill closed in 1867. It's rather dangerous. Don't know if I'm going to go in it. The stairs are collapsing. In 1872, production went to about $250,000, which is a lot during that time period. There used to be rivers down Main Street. This is Main Street below. Rivers would flow down Main Street during these floods. They kind of referred to it as a cesspool of mud. All the mud would come down off these mountains, and they would have to clean up. You'd have mud flowing down roads. Keep in mind, there was no pavement. Most of these roads have been paved. Even some of them look quite recently paved or redone. Back then, these were dirt roads. So when it flooded, yes, it became very muddy. It's like stepping back in time. We're going to go to the Manhattan milling site. I have other historical pieces in my head I'll try to come up with. Later tonight, I'll do a ghost walk, and I'll give you guys some of the darker secrets of Austin. Now's not the time. And, I realize I'm holding the camera a little steady because I just want you to get a grip on how many historic sites and remnants are left behind dating back to the 1860s. And these cemeteries are gorgeous, and we will take you there soon. Got this little, I don't know what this is, a watershed or something. There's some old stonework. It's old. You can see the cracks in the concrete. Concrete back in the day, 100 years ago, it was not made to last. Erosion took place. There's the town's water tower or water tank. Wind erosion and heavy rains cracked the concrete. You could tell this is old concrete, even if it's 60, 80 years old. It's still, all this is historic sites. There's adobe buildings, there's wood shacks, brick buildings, just a mix of architecture. And we were down, all the way down in this valley. I stood in front of these churches and some of these shacks that you see. A lot of stonework and masonry work in town. And there are other sites in Main Street we will explore. I haven't seen a lot of plaques. They seem to be non-existent, some of them that I've seen on websites. So who knows? Who knows? A lot of people have pictures up 10 years old and things change. It's debilitating. Some of the structures, they've fallen, whereas opposed to 10 years ago, they were standing. The elements over time are quite harsh in this region, and it gets quite cold in the center of Nevada. We were down to probably 12 degrees when I stepped out, started doing some paranormal work. I haven't taken any EVPs or readings, but downtown I like to take some EVPs in the cemetery. We'll see what transpires. What are you doing? This is Lord Rick. Time to get back in the Jeep, see if we can find the Manhattan, since we're close by. Your pillow? I didn't know what you were doing. There's the other half of town. There are some new houses. Everything's been restored, done. And you gotta love teenagers. This one decided he was gonna run away. He didn't get very far, did he? Not everybody can have their way. Just because they don't want to be here to appreciate the history doesn't mean they can't just enjoy the ride. I went a little higher up before I go off into the Toiyabe mountain range. I just want to show you how vast it is. You could see mountain ranges above. This is Pony Express beyond those hills. They have an old Pony Express route you can actually drive. It goes for many, many miles. But when Nevada Central Railroad reached Clifton, I don't know if this is right, in 1880, there was a narrow gauge railroad that branched off from there in Battle Mountain. And I guess I could tell you that the profits have peaked in 1860s, early 1870s, and in 1872 when they pushed for unionization, demanding the Comstock standard minimum wage for $4 per day, there were people were getting very lawless. They were lashing out. They wanted to be paid, and people were getting arrested. But the union was formed. And we'll talk more about the mines if I can find the mines or the mill site. But this is a really great ghost town, and to come here and to be a part of it is all I really care about. It isn't about ghosts or UFOs or anything. This place needs to be preserved. This is as Wild West as you're gonna get. So why not go with it? Enjoy the moment. This is amazing. Like I said, vast expanses everywhere surrounding Austin. I'm gonna try to park, and I'm gonna walk up that hill and do more filming and history of the town. And then this road will take us near the Manhattan Mill site. Like I said, you have to go to the Manhattan Mill site, get some EVPs, some readings. That place was the cream of the crop when it came to Austin. Without that mine, I don't know if Austin would have survived. But it has. Cattle guard. It's a free range in some of these parts. A free range. You can see right here. Look at that. Desert. Multiple strips of mountain ranges also cut through here. We've been in this area, just not to Austin. What I will say is that these mountain ranges may not look like much, but they are forested from the bottom to the top. It's possible Bigfoot could exist in some of these mountain ranges. People don't believe it. There is a lot of forest in Nevada, and they might be 80 miles long in some areas, and vast, no trails. It's very rugged terrain. A lot of wagon roads that cut through, like this one here. We'll be taking this. To get to some of these peaks, I doubt there are places here man has not been. Therefore, the possibility of an unknown species or Bigfoot in the Toiyabe National Forest, or some kind of Nephilim or giant or legendary creature could very well exist. I don't know. 5-6 mountain ranges around Austin. Some of them, like I say, go for 80, 100 miles, and they are full of forest and desert and lush canyons and creeks and rivers, and it's just, you could spend a lifetime out here. I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. I'm just hypothetically speaking the truth. You can see it's just so vast. It does turn into forest eventually. We're not in the range fully yet either. And you can see there are parts of forests such as junipers and other types of trees that the Shoshone obviously took advantage of when they lit their fires in the cool winter months. So you got to think about it. This is a lot of history here, dating back to 10 to 12,000 BC. Ladies and gentlemen, some of these peaks almost stand at 12,000 feet, 11,000 feet, so they are snow-capped. Even though it's been a mild winter, you can clearly see that there has been a lot of powderets on top of the peaks. For example, this peak is covered. Like I said, it's very vast up here. It's amazing where you can go. We will be going, if you look straight ahead, you can see snow. We'll be going all the way around those mountains. It's like 40 or 60 miles to another ghost town, but we're going to do it. We're going to bring you guys everything we could possibly bring you. We don't half-ass our work. The work that we do is reliable. It's a family-run paranormal adventure group, and the type of work that we're going to do is going to be stellar, all the way from the pictures to the videos to the history. There's no skits. I do bring notes. Sometimes I jot down. I can't possibly remember all the dates and everything. Sometimes I do. You know, we all get old and we all get a little forgetful, right? Just want to wish everybody a very good weekend. It is Easter weekend of 2015, even if you don't celebrate. I hope everybody has a blessed weekend and enjoys this special trip. Just a few hours ago, I witnessed an eclipse, and now here I am standing surrounded on 360 degrees by wilderness. This makes me feel a little small. Now you can see we're higher up and shit just got real. Pardon my French. Might be the wrong language to use with Austin. Yeah, this was a lawless town. People died here. Whether it was heat exhaustion or shootouts or murders. You can see there's a pile of rocks. This could signify the hill, the top of the hill, maybe a grave marker. Who knows? Who knows what went on years ago?
Oh, shit.
You look like the kid off The Walking Dead. William, as I was saying him, Talcott, he was a Pony Express rider, and it was a steep canyon. He's on the Pony Express Trail when he discovered Pony Canyon, found the quartz rock. Some people changed the story. They said he found an outcropping and knew there was ore. He had some limited knowledge. However, it was David Buell that laid out the town site. Remember when I was telling you how the town was named? Some historians say it was named after Stephen Austin, which is actually a long-distance relative of my girlfriend, Tammy. Her dad's name is Stephen, and there is believed to be, they looked at the family tree, a connection to this town in Austin, Texas. How cool is that? So of course we want to go here. David Buell laid out the town site. Other people say the town had received its name after this town had. We'll talk about, when I go downtown a little bit, we'll talk about Madam Sheriff. First female sheriff, called Madam Sheriff, George Crowell's wife, or his widow, after he passed away. He was a sheriff. When he passed away, he left the job in Claire Dunham Crowell's hands. And she was 42 years old. And she was a rugged woman. Not that that's a bad thing, but she knew how to survive, and she knew how to uphold the law here. Like I said, this town was lawless. She was not afraid to arrest cattle rustlers, robbers, people trying to rob banks, catching Indians at a store illegally selling alcohol. Well, the Indians were buying it, and the store was illegally selling it. But we'll talk about that more later. I want to give you guys some fun facts. Well, I actually told you earlier, it's one of the 4 towns on the 280-mile stretch of the loneliest highway in America. And this is, as I said earlier in my video, it's the most centrally located community in Nevada. Basically, it's in the center, and you can see multiple mountain ranges just overlapping one another, ripples. You can see 5-6 mountain ranges for 100 miles easily. But we're going to move on to the Manhattan Mill. In mine area, there's nothing left from what I hear, but to go to the site is an honor. Like I said, it was the flagship for the growth in this town. Can you imagine 10,000 people lived around here? Of course, there's plenty of room to build. As I said before, it went easily to 6,000 in a couple years to 10,000, and then eventually when the ore ran out and the mining stopped, the population today is only around 300. A lot of their families have been here for generations. So it's kind of hard to leave something of this great of historical value. I could see the cemetery, and we'll leave you with that. The cemetery is down over this hill. 5 cemeteries: Masonic, Oddfellows, an Indian cemetery. I believe there's a Catholic cemetery as well. I didn't look them all up, but I will give you a history when I walk through. There's a lot of history to it as well. You can see my Jeep. We are road less taken. Peace. Now we're off-roading the Manhattan. the Manhattan Silver Mining Company and Mill, the amount of revenue this brought in was amazing. I want to show you how steep this is. Sorry for the dirty window, but you got to understand that things get dusty and bugs hit the windshield quite quickly when you're driving on the loneliest road in America. I mean, it's not very far, maybe half a mile from here is the site. And you have to visit it. You have to take in the history. It's like stepping back in time. It's kind of a waste if you don't visit the major sites in Austin. And this is one of them, I consider. Even if it's all mined out or nothing remains. It's, at one time, like I say, it's these mines for many years that kept this town booming. There are other ghost towns in the region, even Ophir, which is quite difficult to get to if you don't have a high clearance vehicle. In Kingston, there's even a couple ghost towns erased from history. They do exist. I mean, there might be some foundations or some TNT canisters, as I call them, dynamite boxes, old mining remnants, tailings, mills, stonework buildings. You'll find even Pony Express stations, or at least some ruins of them. Definitely don't want to take A. It's going to be on our left side. Actually, the mill was once probably in this flat area. We'll still check it out. No harm intended. If I see something I can photograph or take pictures of, I will. You can see how vast it is. To be honest with you, a lot of Austin's roads are pretty good. Even the back country, you can almost take a car on this. But again, you know, you got to bring food and water and be prepared. And if you don't pay attention, you could easily roll it. So you really got to stay on the road, which is something a lot of people tend to do. They look the other way and there's something right there. That must be it. Looks like some tailings. I think we'll park here and take a look around. We're heading to the Manhattan Silver Mining and Mill Company. It's supposed to be on the left between multiple dirt roads, which is one over there and one here. I'll tell you a little about the mining company. I don't have a lot of information. You could tell something's been done here. This may be all that remains is some shack, but it doesn't mean that Jared and I can't come down here and at least take a look. The mill would have been here. There's pieces of wood. There are remnants. You could tell something was here, even if the mill was not. So it's worth a gander. We just need to be a little careful. There are no rattlesnakes. It's way too cold. What is that? Oh, just some rocks? Yeah. The mine itself disbanded in 1887. Well, as I say, long before that, it was almost exhausted. Once the mines were exhausted, there was no need to process the ore. Therefore, that was it. The mill shut down. By 1890, Austin began a very steep decline. The county seat in 1979 was lost or transferred to Battle Mountain. It's pretty rough. But you can imagine, I mean, this mill processed millions of dollars. This looks like a pit, as if they had something here. Obviously, this is probably the site. After 100 years of no mill remnants, it probably was built mainly of wood.
Why is there a radioactive sign?
Huh?
Why is there a radioactive sign?
There is? Where?
I'm joking.
You scared? There is a uranium mine. We're not going to that place. It is a cool mill, but it is radioactive, and we don't need to go to it. It's probably haunted. There's probably a lot of people that died. This is all that remains, probably, of the Manhattan. Look, there's piles of wood. This, like, you can see my rabbit ears. This is the cream of the crop right here. Of course, keep in mind this mill was very large, factory size. It's hard to believe that there's nothing remaining. You see any other remnants of the past? Just a bunch of wood boards, and this is what's left of the mill. This is the mill site. We found it, man. We found it. Actually, I could tell you guys, look, there's where the mine is up there. Hey, look. See the mine and debris pile?
Oh, yeah.
That is the Manhattan mine. Big debris pile, very large silver mine. The silver was very rich, much like Virginia City and the Comstock. Definitely a place you want to check out. May not be much standing. This place deserves a little bit of attention. Let's not forget the mine that made this all possible. That's an anthill, isn't it?
Yeah.
With no ants.
No, expired.
Like you could see dugouts. Because a lot of these mills stood on tiers all the way up almost to the mine, which is over here. And if you look, I don't know if you can see it, but there's some wood boards embedded. Not much remains. But if you look, this mine was a major producer. The bigger the debris pile, the bigger the mine. The ore here was rich, much like Virginia City. At least 70% grade. Yeah, this is the mill site. This is the first mine and mill, really, that was developed. It started in Clifton. But for Austin, this was the main mine and mill. Always, they would build the mills below the mines, most of the time with ghost towns. As you can clearly see, nothing but tailings and wood piles, or piles of wood, and the cattle roam free, and this is just a sign that they were here. It's about all that's here. What'd you find there? There's probably some cool rocks, quartz and things. There's sometimes silver in the quartz. Nice memento. Here's a piece of, let me show you. Here's something, a remnant of the past. Maybe that was a can of beans at one time. We're going to get some pictures of this here. If this is all that remains, I definitely want to get a picture. I'd like to go up to that mine. I'm pretty sure it's closed up. Mica maybe? There's quartz mixed with mica's usually kind of sparkly.
Yeah.
Could be silver. Silver looks like that in rock too. Mm-hmm. Sparkles of silver. It's not a very high grade piece. Check this out. Bottles.
Whoa.
Not as old as they look. I mean the metal.
This one.
That's old probably, huh? What's that say? See what that says. That looks like an old Coke bottle, huh?
Yeah. Huh.
I like old bottles. They're all smashed, and that's what's going to happen. People come out here to vandalize. Those aren't antique. They might be vintage. You know, they might be 30, 40 years old. They're not antique. One looks like a beer bottle or a bottle of booze. The other one looks like an older Coke bottle. They're not worth anything. You can always put like a color liquid in it and put it on your windowsill. We want to preserve things. That's all we want to do. We don't vandalize. We really don't take anything of value ever from a ghost town. Pretty good with vintage and certain things, and somebody was up here drinking. It's an older bottle of booze, but it doesn't come with Austin. It's probably some kids or something. It's still pretty cool. I like any kind of glass bottles. They don't make them like they did in the 60s or the 50s. In 1950s, bottles were bottles. They were made that you could drop them and they wouldn't even break. Now, they're so thin, they just break up as soon as they hit the ground. Jared's going to take a picture of me up on these ruins, because you got to have a picture with the Manhattan. You got to. I'm parked way over there, and that's the mine. I definitely will photograph that. A lot of wilderness out there. It's still pretty cool. Bet you the road goes there. That mine is really awesome. But I read on there, I think it's an underground mine, but I don't, and it says abandoned, but I don't know if there's a way in. We could always check it out like later or something. I definitely need a picture up here of these wood tailings. There's some roofing. There's a part, see the stairwell right there? That stairwell, there's a couple stairwells. It's probably the mill site. They had stairwells that were very steep like that in most mills. We've seen them, you and I. This is history. Here we go. The wages were very low for miners in horrible conditions. And out in Austin in the summer, easily 100 degrees, 105. It's in the middle of Nevada. It gets very hot here. Today, right now, it's probably less than 40 degrees. Lord Rick at the Manhattan Mining and Mill Silver Company. I want to show everybody this. This piece of wood you see was a massive beam that probably ran 20, 30 feet, or a post in the ground for the mill. You could tell somebody burned it. Obviously to use for firewood. They probably camped or came out here for the night and drank. There's beer bottles. This is history destroyed. This is what I'm talking about. You have to kind of savor some things, because I'm telling you, once it's gone, it's gone. This beam is history, and it is charred. But it was a large beam at one time. You can see it's just split and broken apart and rotted out. And it's very scattered. Very, very scattered. We made it to the Manhattan. I thought about this place all week. And if you look at that. You could have TNT canisters, blast canisters down here, or TNT boxes. Scattered metal remnants everywhere on the hillside. You know this is where the mill was. You know it, beyond a shadow of a doubt. And nothing might remain, they say at a lot of sites, but it's not true. There are. If you go searching and explore, you will find things, as we've showed you here. Don't you hate when you have to change battery packs in a cam? That's what happened to me. So we'll head up the hill. You have to be careful when you're out in this rugged wilderness. You could roll your ankle, which I've almost done a couple times. Just because I'm tough as nails does not mean I'm free from injury. People all the time died. You know, there was an epidemic that broke out, I believe in the early 1900s. It killed quite a few people. A lot of those people buried in the cemetery died of that epidemic, especially children. These miners worked hard at the mill. Their children went to school. There was many schoolhouses, saloons, banks, stores. Masonic Lodge, Oddfellows. Well, the Oddfellows and Masonic shared the hull. This town had it all. Stores, lots of saloons, telegraph office, essay office, newspaper. It was huge. And this mill, you can imagine, just if you went out for a stroll, you could see this mill from, you come down on that hill, may go for a walk, you see the mill from hundreds of feet away. It was always active until it went on a decline. We're leaving the Manhattan Mine and Mill Silver Company back down into the town of Austin. You could see how the mine and the mill were very close by. You could basically build a cabin or a home here, and you could work and then just walk home at the end of a hard shift or a hard day and be home in time for supper. That was how life was in the Wild West. There's a lot of grim stories, a lot of historical stories as well in relation to Austin. It's a phenomenal ghost town. It's not as big as Bodie or Virginia City, but it is substantial. I've seen wagons and all sorts of historical remnants from when the town boomed in the 1860s. How can you ignore that? we're heading back into town. I'd like to see the Oddfellows Lodge and Masonic Lodge. Actually, Jared, look what I just found. Stone ruins over there. But I don't know how to... You know what I'll do? We'll park on the concrete here, and we'll walk up to those, get a picture, because that's a miner's cabin. How can you not check that out? It's just... It was built with the hands of a working man. Look at that. That's a miner's cabin of some sort. Might be just a foundation, but it was made with native rock. Wow. I'm not afraid to leave the pavement. The adventure begins when the road ends. And I'll tell you what, I have no regrets coming back this way to look at those historical remnants. You won't find the best parts of Austin unless you're willing to take a few dirt roads and hike up some hills and mountains. I'm serious. This is for future ghost town explorers. I know there's about 100 groups out here, and they like to do what I do, which is explore ghost towns, except I throw a little bit of history, mystery, suspense, and of course the paranormal all mixed into one giant adventure, which that's cool. There's a lot of people who don't take pride in what they do. You should. If you're gonna do something like this, you might as well do it all. I have to find out where those... There they are. I'll take a little walk. There's a tailing right there. There's a couple memorials I want to get photographs too. I'll park right here. Let's see what we got. That's right there. It's a miner's cabin, has to be. I've seen dozens of them, hundreds of them. Real quick, folks. This is a miner's cabin. Most of them were just a very small room with a cot or a single bed. It may have had a little fireplace in the corner where they could burn some wood. A few, maybe a dresser, maybe a couple pots and pans hanging up, I don't know. But this is what one would look like. A lot of them were built out of snow. A lot of them were built out of stone. This is to prevent them from starting on fire. Put some sheet metal for roofing. All the native stone was fit together very tightly. There's no mortar really. The walls are just thick, and these eventually do crumble, but they are nice finds. And usually cabins like this in ghost towns exist on hillsides near the mines. I just wanted to show you on the outskirts of Austin what you might find if you hike around. And I could see other mine debris piles, so I will photograph them. Some mine has been collapsed. You can thank Harry Reid for that. His father was a miner. It's a well-to-do miner family, and they wanted to close them all up for safety. But the thing is that if people are unintelligent and decide to jump over a mine shaft and they fall, it's their own stupidity and fault. Let us enjoy the mines. It's history. It's not hurting anybody. A lot of them are just tunnels. No shafts are safe. And those ones even been shut down. Nothing is more beautiful than going into a silver mine and seeing the twinkle or twilight along the walls of that silver dust lining the tunnels. It's beautiful.